very pleasant night. And Chicago will begin by kicking off Chris Gardocki, a rookie from Clemson, who was signed to kick off much as Brad Dalwiso kicks off for Buffalo. Kevin Butler is still the Bears' place kicker. Gardocki sends it down to Dexter Carter, who brings it back from the 4, out past the 20, to the 24-yard line. And that's where San Francisco sets up for its first series. And Steve Young, the lefty, comes out to guide them. As Dan mentioned, Bono not even in uniform, and of course you know Montana gone for the whole season. Gardner and Rathman begin in the backfield. The great wideouts, Rice and Taylor. Brent Jones, one of the top tight ends in the league. And the guys up front, a good interior line, Wallace, McIntyre, Sapolo, the longtime Miami Dolphin Foster, and Barton. From the 24-yard line, Young goes right to the air and rifles one to the 31-yard line into the arms of Brent Jones, the tight end. And he is tackled by Mike Singletary. That's a gain of 7. It'll be 2nd and 3. The Bears play a base 4-3. Armstrong, McMichael having a great year. Terry has been consistent. Dent's been good as always. Wolford, Singletary, and Morrissey, the 3 linebackers. Wolford and Simpson on the corners. Gale and Carrier are the safeties. Carrier was voted into the Pro Bowl, and Gale was named today as a substitute for Tim McDonald. So they're very good deep. 2nd and 3. Young throws complete to the 40-yard line, and John Taylor makes the catch. So the 49ers come out throwing, and they have a first down.
Richard Dent picking right up where he left off last week in the great game he had against Tampa Bay with 3 sacks, and on that time he planted Steve Young as he got inside and made the hit. And Steve Young, we can't emphasize enough, his tender is not yet all the way back, and Richard Dent figures to be a real factor if the Bears are to really pressure Young tonight.
First down off the quick count, a little toss back to Dexter Carter, and he's bumped out of bounds near the line of scrimmage by Mike Singletary.
Yeah, if you call that a bump.
Brad thought it was a late bump. Take another look.
Singletary, of course, 9 consecutive Pro Bowls, earned that this past week, and is probably playing better here late in the season than he did at the beginning of the season, and is pretty open about the fact that he wants to continue on for yet another year. And that hit was a yard out of bounds, but no flag.
2nd and 10 at the 41-yard line. Young going deep, but too deep. Intended for Jerry Rice, who had beaten the coverage. He'd gotten behind Donnell Wolford, and Young couldn't connect.
Well, again, the cornerbacks of the Bears are going to be in for a lot of major league duels tonight. They're small. Wolford is only 5'9", 187. Rice, of course, up there around 6'2" with a great speed. And the key to the Bears holding Rice and Taylor tonight is they're going to have to disguise the defense. They're going to have to cover it some way and try to get 2 men on these 2 outside guys. And that's very tough because Brent Jones, the tight end, is healthy once again. And he really should command a secondary man instead of a linebacker covering him.
3rd and 10. They send Mike Gerard into the game as the extra receiver. And Young fires to a wide-open tight end, Jones, all the way to the Chicago 30-yard line. Carrier and Tate converge on the tackle. Wide open over the middle for 29 yards.
Oh, we just talked about Jones. He's one of those tight ends, and there are not that many around. They really demand you cover him with somebody in the secondary. This time Bears were in a zone defense, trying to take away underneath, and a good pass by Young over the middle, and the 2 safeties that were in the deep zone converged on him, but not before he got a big pickup.
Frank, they ought to try to cover him with somebody. A linebacker or a secondary man or a guard or a tackle, I don't care what. I mean, that was some sort of a blown coverage by Chicago, leaving Jones that much alone.
Now a double tight end check for the 49ers. First down from the 30-yard line. Here's Dexter Carter slicing over the left side, taking it to the 25. He is stopped by Steve McMichael. It'll be 2nd and 5.
Problem with covering a Brent Jones with somebody in the secondary, you take away the opportunity to cover Rice and Taylor double. And it's very difficult because Rice and Taylor, I mean, not only can they go deep and take the deep pass, but they'll catch the 5- and 6-yard pass, and they'll turn it into a 40, 50, 6-yard touchdown. They're great runners after they catch it. And I don't think I have to say that to anyone who's ever watched them perform. Two great outside receivers.
2nd and 5 at the 25, opening drive of the game. Young. This is Taylor. And Taylor out of bounds at the 15-yard line, and that's another San Francisco first down on a very impressive opening drive. And Young looked as if he hasn't missed a beat.
Boy, and you heard Frank touch on John Taylor. How many receivers in the league would have just let their momentum after catching this ball carry them out of bounds? But look how Taylor is able to gather himself, get upfield, and pick up another 4 yards or so. And when you're inside the 20-yard line, those are crucial yards.
You know, he's one of the better punt returners in the league, John Taylor. A gifted runner, and he catches that little short one, and he's a threat to go all the way at all times.
Young is 4 for his first 5. The only miss, the overthrow of Rice. 1st and 10 at the 15. Young with a hot hand, nearly gets sacked, then escapes inside the 10, all the way to the 2-yard line. Steve Young makes it 1st and goal.
And there was no sliding that time on the part of Steve Young. He has never done that throughout his career at BYU and with the 49ers and all of his playing career. And last week he did it because of the sore knee against Kansas City. Hurt the knee again. And he is a running back. He could play running back for a lot of football teams. Look at the move. And there is no hook sliding for Young at this point. And again, it's the left knee that's bothering him. He wears a brace. You can see it right there. It is a little inhibiting.
He is their 2nd leading ground gainer this year. The first, Keith Henderson, has a gimpy ankle. The play fake. Young under pressure. Throws touchdown to Jamie Williams.
I'll tell you, if he's inhibited by that knee, it's hard to tell. He has great speed. He perhaps was slowed a little bit, Dan, but I mean, he's a great athlete to throw on the run like that.
You know, Richard Dent really got upfield, and even though Young was able to get outside and get the throw off, Dent really altered his path. Watch Young here. He's going to roll to his left after the fake to Rathman, but Dent forces him back, forces him to throw off balance, and still a perfect strike to Williams. That was really just excellent on the part of Steve Young, and you can see that ended a long dry spell for Jamie Williams.
First touchdown in 4 years, and Mike Cofer's extra point makes it 7-0 as the 49ers march 76 yards in 4 minutes and 57 seconds. That's an ominous beginning for the Bears. A lot of cheering in San Francisco and in Detroit as well. 49ers methodically marching down the field. In a little less than 5 minutes, take a 7-0 lead.
Good news for the 49ers, I think, was Steve Young did everything that he's done in the past. We were concerned about the knee. He was concerned about it when I talked to him before the game, but he was able to run the ball. He was able to go with the rollout and also deliver the ball from the pocket.
Dennis Gentry and the rookie Anthony Morgan are back to receive the kick. Mike Cofer to put it in the air. At the goal line, Dennis Gentry. Good coverage. Hit it to 10 by David Whitmore.
Boy, they're making noise in Detroit. You know that?
Here come the Bears offensively. For the first time in 10 years, the Bears have a quarterback start every game of the season. So many injuries through the years, but Harbaugh goes all the way. Anderson is back. He's missed the last 2 weeks with a hamstring. Muster is next as well. Davis and Waddle are the wideouts, and Jennings, the rookie tight end. Wojciechowski, Fontenot, Hilgenberg, Thayer, and Van Horn up front. They are still missing Mark Gorge, who has missed the last 5 weeks. Hope to have him back for the playoffs. So it's a rebuilt offensive line. And, of course, Colbert gone for the year. Off the fake, Harbaugh, who's a good runner, out to the 18-yard line. In fact, he has rushed for more first downs than any quarterback in the league. He is stopped by Bill Romanowski. Let's take a look at the 49er defense. three-man front. Fagan is hurt. He's gone. So it's Holt, Carter, who has the flu, and Larry Roberts. Haley, the great one, with the long Walter and Romanowski, and we'll see a lot of Tim Harris as well. Hanks is a rookie, done a good job at the corner. Griffin, the veteran, and then Waymer and Bowles, the safety. 2nd and 3 at the 18-yard line. That's Jennings in motion. And here's Anderson, first carry in 3 weeks. He gets to the 20, stops short of the first down. Larry Roberts with a tackle. It'll be 3rd and 1.
It'll be interesting to watch Michael Carter, the great nose tackle of the 49ers. He did not even come out for the pregame warm-ups for the San Francisco 49ers. He was that ill that he didn't even leave the locker room, and yet he's out here starting the game. But you really have to question how far into this contest he's going to be able to make it. Number 95 over the ball. And, of course, a great matchup here tonight as he goes against Jay Hilgenberg, the Pro Bowl center again of the Bears.
3rd down and 1 at the 20-yard line. San Francisco up early, 7-0. Jennings in motion. Toss to Muster. Good block by Anderson, and it's going to be close as Waymer comes up along with Haley to stop him at the 21-yard line. And it is a 1st down. So signal without even a measurement by our referee tonight, who is Red Cashin.
Look, again, what a fine combination they are when they've been healthy, but they've had a lot of trouble, the Bears have, getting these two together with a hamstring problem for both of them, and now a hip problem by Brad Muster that could be related to the back, but when they have been together, they have been very effective.
1st and 10 at the 21-yard line. This time they split Anderson to the right. Harbaugh looks to the left, throws underneath. It's Muster making the catch. Muster fighting for the first down and is close to it as he remains inbounds up at the 32-yard line. Stopped by Griffin. It is a 1st down. Let's take a look at the playoffs because the dates and times have been set. The first 2 games are ABC games this Saturday. The Raiders start at Kansas City. Will be on the air at noon with that one, and then to New Orleans, Atlanta against the Saints. Then on Sunday, Dallas is at either Chicago or Detroit. And in the second game, the Jets will be at Houston.
First game there is a CBS game. The second game is NBC.
From the 33-yard line. Stopped in the backfield. Anderson tripped up by Dennis Brown, the second-year defensive lineman out of Washington, who's been coming on.
Well, he has been one of the young, outstanding defensive linemen for the 49ers. You talk to head coach George Peaford, he will tell you that this youngster could become a starter, as could his number 1 pick this year, Ted Washington. They have had some brilliant moments, as you saw right there. A lot of quickness for the big man. He goes about 290.
Well, really, you know, the San Francisco offense over the years has gotten so much publicity and so much credit. Their best unit is on the field right now. You know, make no mistake about it. They get the headlines with offense, but they win their games with this defensive unit.
You know, that's been true over the years.
Yeah.
2nd and 12 at the 31-yard line. Harbaugh. Oh, and what a pop. After the completion at the 37, Neal Anderson makes the catch, and Merton Hanks, the rookie, sends him a little greeting.
In the
spirit of the holidays.
Really popped to Anderson. Hank, of course, took over early in the year when Pollard was hurt. Let's listen to it, and we're going to let it go at full speed.
Merton Hanks is just a giant corner. He's 6'2", 185 pounds, and in an era of smaller cornerbacks, he's a real giant.
3rd and 5. 5:17 to go in the quarter. Harbaugh up past the 45, the 50, and out of bounds at the San Francisco 46 as Johnny Jackson runs them out of bounds. And as we said, Harbaugh leads the league in rushing for first downs for quarterbacks, and that's saying something in a league with guys like John Elway.
What a play by Neal Anderson. He first hits Charles Haley and knocks him down, and then goes downfield and clears it for Harbaugh. Here goes Harbaugh downfield. Here's Anderson right here. He's already hit Haley back here and helped out his tackle Van Horn. And then here he comes, and there's the block on Bill Romanowski, the linebacker. I mean, double duty that time by Neal Anderson.
And we'll have our first penalty of the game after Harbaugh rushes for his 26th first down. Jim Burt, the longtime Giant, is the man who came across the line, but was he induced? Here's the question. And the answer is...
Encroachment before the snap. Number 64 on the defense. 5 yards, still first down.
Whether or not this drive generates any points or not for the Chicago Bears almost doesn't matter now. Certainly points are always welcome and needed in a football game. But to be a 3-and-out drive would have been a huge disaster for the Bears. They have now driven the ball into San Francisco territory. They are doing their part in controlling the line of scrimmage and serving notice on the 49ers that we did come here to play a football game tonight.
Eighth play of the drive at 1st and 5 from the 41-yard line. Here's Neal Anderson taking the ball to the 38-yard line. Ted Washington, 97, makes the tackle. And it will be second down at about 3. Candlestick Park, site of the final game of the 1991 regular season. The Goodyear Blitz providing the shot on a sparkling night. The Goodyear Blitz, Columbia.
And an unusually mild night here at Candlestick this time of year. It's extremely, extrely comfortable for the players and us too.
Second down and 2.
Like anybody cares about it.
Mom does. Harbaugh. Lofting one for Anderson, who makes the catch. He's taken down to the 20-yard line. Mike Walter, the linebacker, had the coverage on him, and Anderson was able to get behind him and wait for the floater to come in and picks up 17 yards.
Well, it's surprising that Mike Walter, in any type of defense by the 49ers, would wind up covering Neal Anderson. He has been used as a flanker, as a receiver. He has great speed out of the backfield. Walter very late getting there. And Anderson was looking very good tonight. We saw him block earlier. We saw him pick up the first down yardage. And a healthy Neal Anderson, what a difference he makes for a football team.
The other part of that was really just a fine touch on the ball by Harbaugh, dropping it over the top.
Mark Green is in the game, and he blocks for Brad Muster. He takes it to the 17, and we have 3 minutes remaining in the first quarter. As you look at Anderson, each team has had the ball once. The 49ers are on top on a 76-yard opening drive, 7-0. The demonstrative Mike Ditka. That's very mild, though, for Mike.
Neal Anderson was informed this week that he has gone to his 4th consecutive Pro Bowl. This will be his first in 3 years that he has not gained over 1,000 yards and troubled by a hamstring. Personal problems that were well documented at the beginning of the season. Not one of his better years, but still he was voted to the Pro Bowl.
Anderson in motion. Second down and 7. Harbaugh to throw. Good protection. Low throw, but does he get it in there? No. At the 10-yard line. Intended for the tight end Keith Jennings, who had been in training camp with Denver. He was picked up in mid-season. They lost Capozzo to injury, and James Thornton, who would be their starting tight end, is also dinged.
And Jennings is a big one. He's listed at 251 pounds, but Mike Ditka yesterday telling us that he's more in that 270-pound range, and that's an Eric Green size tight end.
4 wides now for Chicago, and they have had a lot of success in this particular situation to Tom Waddle, their control-type receiver.
Third down and 7. And over the middle, there is the aforementioned Waddle, but he loses the football at the 2-yard line, and the 49ers have recovered. Kevin Lewis is the guy who dislodged it, number 45, and Don Griffin covers it.
Oh, it's a super play by Lewis. Waddle had the ball looking for the end zone, and Lewis just stripped it. Again, Waddle wide open, coming across, and there's the rip, and out comes the ball. Great play by Lewis, and the Bears will be thwarted.
2:05 left in the opening quarter. 7-0 San Francisco. 2 2:05 left in the first quarter. 49ers ahead 7-0, and after the fumble, they take over at their own 2-yard line, and Steve Young goes right to the air again. Scrambles, picks up a little bit of yardage. He goes out of bounds at the 5-yard line. It'll be 2nd down and 7. Is this the new Mike Ditka? Here's a look on tape at his greeting for Tom Waddle after the fumble.
I mean, obviously Waddle's upset, and look at Mike come over and console him, or he might have been giving him his address and telling him that you're shoveling my driveway for the rest of the winter.
Or, son, I'm on national television, but I would just want you to know you're through.
I mean, Big Mike has he has made an effort to change the way he is on the sidelines, and hey, how good it must feel after a play like that. Nobody feels worse than Waddle to have Iron Mike Ditka come over and put his arm around you. Hey, you'll get another chance.
Waddle's one of his boys, too.
Yeah. But don't do it again.
Yeah. 2nd and 8 at the 5. Young escaping, throwing, and it's complete up to the 17. Brent Jones is tackled by Singletary at the 20-yard line. Young showing good mobility, escaping the sack. Our 2 games coming your way, the wild card playoff games, and we'll be on the air at noon Saturday. Game 1 is from Arrowhead Stadium in Kansas City. That's the first playoff game ever held at Arrowhead. The Chiefs hosting the Raiders. And then from there, we'll take you down to the Superdome, where the Falcons go in against the New Orleans Saints to celebrate their first division title in the history of the franchise. 1st and 10, San Francisco at the 19. Final minute of the quarter. Here's Dexter Carter. He takes it out to the 22-yard line. He is stopped there by Steve McMichael.
You know, I think a good example of a team that is playing loose and has nothing to lose. We saw the 49ers drop back to pass twice out of their own end zone, and now a running play up here beyond the 20-yard line. You wonder if those would have been the calls if this is a game the 49ers had to win to make it into the playoffs.
You know, I wondered about that on first down at their own 3-yard line. They pop right back into the end zone with the quarterback with a gimpy knee. I really kind of doubt it.
49ers let the clock run out for the first quarter after one 7-0 San Francisco, and Monday Night Football returns after this message and a word from your ABC station. Monday Night Football in San Francisco. Al Michaels, Frank Gifford, and Dan Dierdorf. Now, at the start of tonight's game, in terms of pass rating, Mark Rippon had the lead by 5/100ths of a point over Steve Young. And Steve Young had a good enough quarter that at the moment, he is in the lead in the ongoing battle. From the 22 on 2nd down, here is Jerry Rice. Out past the 40, Rice into Chicago territory, trips at the 44-yard line. Donnell Wolford makes the tackle. And that's what Rice does so brilliantly and has done for so long. The short pass turns it into a long game.
And I think the problem was there that the Chicago corner slipped and fell. I think this was more a question of footing than it was of anything else. Samuel Stinson went to plant his right foot. Let's see if we can pick it up. And when he went to plant it, he fell down on the turf. You see it right there, and he actually slipped before that, allowing Jerry Rice to be open. So that was just a bad break for Chicago. But again, how often have we seen a short pass become a big play when it's a 49er receiver that's doing the receiving?
34-yard gain. Young playing that hot hand, and he hits Brent Jones, and that's the first down as he is tackled by Mark Carrier. And Young is now 8 for his first 9.
What a difference it has meant to the 49er offense when Jones returned a few weeks ago from a knee injury early in the season. He is a good blocker, not an excellent blocker as tight ends go, but he is an excellent receiver downfield. We've already talked about it. If you don't cover him with a secondary man, you could be in deep trouble. Again, the problem is how do you cover Rice and Taylor and also cover Jones?
Well, the Bears better figure it out pretty soon.
Well, we can see what's happening. They've moved from the 3-yard line.
1st and 10 at the 33. Jones has already caught 4 tonight. Here's Dexter Carter. After bumping off Perry, takes it down to the 30-yard line where he's stopped by Morrissey.
When things start to work well in one area, they usually work well in the other. That time the Bears thinking, well, we'll put pressure on Young. Disregarding the run, you come at the draw play and get good yardage off the draw play.
He
Steve Young's knee that he injured, by the way, is a left knee. And, of course, being a left-handed passer, that's the one he drives off when he throws the football. Seemingly not affecting him tonight.
2nd and 6. Young packs it in, picks up a first down, steps out of bounds at the 22-yard line.
Steve Young, with that speed, is able to get the first down, but it was a little fake pass downfield, just froze the defender and allowed him to get that yardage. Been doing this for a lot of years, pride and joy of BYU, the Greenwich Cardinals, and he went to say hello to his coach, Mike Ornato, who won again this year the championship with the Greenwich Cardinals. He will be going home tomorrow for Christmas.
You're going to lower your property tax after that.
He asked me if Cody was going to go there, and I said, yeah, he's going to be captain of the golf team. Yeah, they're very proud of him, rightfully so. He's a fine young man as well as a quarterback.
1st and 10 at the 22-yard line. 12 minutes to go in the half. 7-0. San Francisco. Young throws, catch made by Rice. He's inside the 10. That's another first down. It's 1st and goal. And the 49ers looking very much like a team that has won 5 in a row. And there are a lot of teams in this conference that are very happy this team is out of the playoffs right now.
Yeah, good pre-read by Young. He reads the coverage, knows that Wolford's going to be single coverage. Wolford has got to lay way off of Rice. Rice is going to eat him up at the end zone. And Young sees that before the snap of the ball, and he focused in on Rice. Wolford had no choice. He had to lay off, or Rice makes the deep move into the end zone, and you get the pickup and you get the first down. What weapons they have.
1st and goal at the 8. This drive for the 49ers started back at their own 3-yard line. Carter takes it to the 3. So they've gone from their 3 to the Bears 3, and that comes on the heels of a 76-yard opening drive against that vaunted Chicago defense. Not so vaunted tonight, though.
49ers on a major roll. They won, what, 5 in a row? Got people healthy again.
Well, you know, if the 49ers were going into the playoffs, there aren't too many teams they wouldn't be favored against going in. 49ers, following 1st and goal, get into the end zone with regularity. Harry Sidney is in the game alongside Rasmus. Young throws, catch made by Rice. Touchdown, the 92nd touchdown reception of his career.
And I think you'll probably review this, and you'll probably see a great move by Rice to get that football across the plane of the goal before he was taken out of bounds.
Well, I think the Bears scheme there put Neal Wolford in almost an impossible situation. He has to go all the way across the formation, trailing Rice, and how is he supposed to ever get in position and keep Rice from driving towards the end zone? Now, the question here, where does Jerry Rice's right knee touch the ground? Let's watch. There's the knee down, and the question mark has to be, where is the ball at that point?
So it's hard to tell from that angle.
Yeah, from that angle, I don't think you can come up with anything conclusive.
They will look at it upstairs. Cal Lepore is the replay official.
Here's another vantage point.
On the field, the play is ruled as a catch and a score for a touchdown. The play is being reviewed by the replay official.
You know, from that angle, you know, I may look at it and say it didn't look like the ball was across. One of you may look and say maybe it was across. If we have to see something conclusive to overturn what was called on the field. And I'm not sure I've seen anything conclusive to turn it over. I don't see any way they could turn this over.
You know, hopefully next year at this time we won't be looking at that.
But the fact of the matter
call
is,
will be made on the field.
I think Neal Wolford did everything he could do to keep Jerry Rice from
Following a
getting in the end
review
zone.
by the replay official, the play stands touchdown.
That's the scene in Detroit in the Silver Dome at a club in the Silver Dome in Pontiac, Michigan, where clearly they would like to keep on eating and not worry about playing this weekend.
And they're packing their woolies in Dallas.
Mike Crawford with a point after, and 2 long drives by the San Francisco 49ers, and they'll coast that in Pontiac. 10:52 remaining in the half. Jerry Rice has scored 92 touchdowns on reception, 4 rushing. So 96 in his career. He has just moved past Marcus Allen. The NFL record is 126 by Jim Brown. So Rice has a real good chance to wind up with that mark.
Keep in mind,
he's 7th year, and Brown is 9th year.
49ers kicking off as Tolfer sends it to Anthony Morgan at the 15. And it's a 10-yard run back to the 25-yard line. Tackled by a tackle of 49ers, and that's where Chicago begins its next drive. Jerry Rice culminating a 97-yard 49er drive. 10:42 left in the half. Cable car heading up the hill in San Francisco where the Niners lead 14-0. Lights of Candlestick Park listening on San Francisco Bay where the Niners lead 14-0 and Chicago has it 1st and 10 at the 25-yard line. With Muster in motion and trying to block, Anderson swings to the outside and is out of bounds up at the 30-yard line after a pickup of 5. Bears on their first possession, great drive, but it ended with a fumble at the 3-yard line after Tom Waddle had picked up a first down. ABC's Monday Night Football is being brought to you by Ford and your Ford dealer. Have you driven a Ford lately? And by cold filtered Miller Genuine Draft and Miller Genuine Draft Light, taking the country by storm. Second and a long 5 at the 30. 4-man rush. Harbaugh steps up. Harbaugh's throw is too high and incomplete. Intended for Wendell Davis, their leading receiver, and he was covered by Don Griffin. Wendell Davis has caught 55 passes this year. And Waddle's caught 50, and you haven't seen a tandem like that, Dan, in Chicago in a long time.
Well, we go all the way back to something like 1970 or something like that, I think. This has been the most prolific passing year the Bears have seen in a long, long time.
3rd and 6 at the 30-yard line. Harbaugh from the shotgun. That's Davis in motion. Harbaugh has to get to the 35 if he's going to run, but he pulls up, throws across the field, and nobody's even close. Intended for Anthony Morgan, and there is a marker down at the 33-yard line.
Pretty tough for a quarterback to run that long and head that far upfield without either he being across the line of scrimmage or one of his offensive linemen being already downfield.
Red Cashin in the white hat.
And that penalty, if it is illegal man downfield, that's a loss of down penalty too. So
Ineligible receiver down the field by the offense. That penalty is declined. It's 4th down.
take your pick. They've got a punt either way.
So George Seifert with his team on top 14-0 will be getting the ball back as Maury Buford will send it away. He's averaging 41 yards a kick. A little below the league average. And John Taylor sets up at his own 30-yard line.
Pretty good football player to not be in a Pro Bowl.
Living in the shadow of Rice. That's the problem. Buford angles the kick. And it's out of bounds at about the 31-yard line. 49ers will take it there after a 40-yard kick by Maury Buford. 9:52 remaining in the half. 49ers up by 14. On Christmas Day, a doubleheader.
It's also for those people whose kids get you up at 5:30.
Right. Young going deep on first down, and the catch is made by Rice. And Jerry is off to the races again. Touchdown.
Well, once again, we saw a footing problem. He'll give you footing problems. Yeah, he'll give everybody footing problems, but I think that was Neal Stinson again on that side who had the coverage on Jerry Rice, and when he went to react back, once again he lost his footing and went to the ground. Locked up one-on-one with Rice, and there was that little hitch right there, but still Stinson is with him and just overplays it, and falls to the ground. Jerry Rice can make you look bad, can he?
Oh, boy, can he ever. And again, I think a good pre-read, it's hard to tell, by Steve Young, knowing that it was going to be one-on-one. And no one else was in his mind but Rice when he saw one-on-one.
Well, so far this game, the Chicago cornerbacks have been put, because of their scheme, under a lot of pressure trying to cover these 49er receivers. It's a lot to ask anybody to lock up one-on-one with Jerry Rice. More often than not, it comes back to haunt you. Here it comes again.
In a year when a lot of teams have had a lot of quarterback problems, think of the 49ers. They have a Hall of Famer on injured reserve. They've got this guy who can start for any number of teams, and Steve Bono, who led them to 5 consecutive victories, a plethora of rookies.
Bono did it so well, the Young probably would not have started, even though he was well, unless Bono had not been hurt last week.
Gopher's kick, fielded by Gentry. He brings it out to the 22-yard line.
Do you get the impression the 49ers are trying to make a statement tonight?
In capital letters. Darren Jordan made that last hit. Big night already for Jerry Rice. 9:33 left in the half. City by the Bay. They used to call it Baghdad by the Bay, but that's not really appropriate these days. Beautiful San Francisco. 1st and 10 for the Chicago Bears at the 22-yard line. 21-0. 49ers. Gain of 2 for Neal Anderson. He is stopped by Mike Walker.
Before that last Rice touchdown, I was going to point out that Jim Harbaugh had brought the Bears back to victory after being behind 9 different times. I don't think we have to worry about history repeating.
I mentioned at the top, the Bears have been here 4 times in the last 7 years. Shut out in 3 of those games. 41-0, 23-0, and 26-0. And this is a team, as we said, averaging only 19 points a game coming in.
Oh, there were some long faces.
2nd and 8 at the 23. Harbaugh flips it to Anderson. Walter can't make the tackle, and Anderson thus is able to lunge forward and pick up the 1st down.
You know, it's really critical for Chicago. I mean, we've talked about the difference between being a wild card team and being the division champion. But they do get to play at home next week, being the wild card team. But Al, chances are that's their last home game. From then on, it's on the road.
There's not enough made of that exact point, Dan. It's not just the week off. You have to win a game. In this case, it has to beat Dallas. Then you have a guaranteed road game the next week instead of a bye and a guaranteed home game. They would go to either Detroit or Washington if they beat Dallas next week if they have to play a wild card game. 1st down from the 34.
Well, I'll tell you, in Dallas, you've got a genuinely hot team.
Wendell Davis makes that catch, and that's enough for a 1st down.
And barring any kind of frigid North Pole type of weather, Dallas, I think, most certainly can play them even.
The Bears, well, in the long and illustrious history of this franchise, they have never won a game after trailing by 21 or more points.
And trust us, folks, that's not a graphic we wanted to show you.
No.
1st and 10 at the 45-yard line. Muster. Small gain. Carter makes the tackle. Again, if the Bears, you think about the Bears and the Lions. If the Bears play that wild card game, they have to beat Dallas at home, guaranteed road game at either Detroit or Washington, and then even if they win that game, they might have to play the next game as well on the road.
And there is no way in any shape, manner, or form to play down what the Detroit Lions have accomplished this year. I mean, you know, all culminating in that win up in Buffalo. A marvelous year for Wayne Fonts and his club in Detroit.
2nd and 9.
Look out.
Harbaugh, sack, fumble. Charles Haley was the guy who created it, but Chicago recovers. John Wojciechowski, the left tackle, gets there.
Of course, Wojciechowski was responsible for blocking Charles Haley on that play, and Wojo's really had a great year at left tackle, but this guy, like Rice, can make you look bad. One of the best pass rushers the National Football League has seen in some time, and good hustle by Wojciechowski to cover up that ball. Charles Haley, an interesting study here in San Francisco, continually professes his unhappiness here, says, I want to be traded, I want to play someplace else. But it's tough to move somebody that can rush the quarterback like that. You like him on your club no matter how much noise he makes.
3rd and 17. A little dump off to Anderson, and he takes it to the 44, considerably shy of the first down, and they'll have to punt again.
Good move by Dennis Brown that time. We saw him earlier. This is a youngster. Second-round draft pick from a year ago out of Washington.
Oh, a pretty good job by Harbaugh getting rid of that football. I thought he was going to eat that for sure. That was some quick thinking on his part to get rid of it, but still well short of the first down.
Buford to kick, Taylor to receive. 5:25 left in the half. 49ers up 21-0. And it will roll dead inside the 15-yard line. 49ers have yet to be stopped. 5:13 remaining in the half. It's an all San Francisco.
Hearing my voice in the IFC monitor.
Live shot from Pontiac, Michigan at the Silver Dome. On the left is Chuck Schmidt, the executive VP of the Detroit Lions. And behind that woman, and there he is, a clear shot of Wayne Fonts, the coach of the Lions. And they're pretty happy right now because they'll get a week off and a guaranteed home game the following week if San Francisco wins this one. It is 21-0 in favor of the 49ers. And that's the first carry of the night for Spencer Stillman, who is warmly greeted
By the fridge.
Look at this. I mean, the way the fridge looks, he has a better chance to wind up on the cover of Vanity Fair than Sports Illustrated.
Oh, only if it's a fold-out.
And only if Tina Brown's listening.
The fridge can play the run. William Perry may not have the mobility he once had when he was lighter, but he still can occupy his space and play the running game as good as any defensive tackle in the NFL. He just should lose some weight. He'd be that much better.
2nd and 8. It's lofted to Dexter Carter, and he takes off for a first down. He's out of bounds at the 34-yard line, and Donnell Wolford is the guy who gets credit for the tackle with 4:24 left in the half. A 20-yard pickup. 1st and 10, 49ers.
Going to have a chance, hopefully, to talk to Wayne Fonts, who did a tremendous job with Detroit. They're 12-4, and what was the score of that opening game against Washington? Who would have dreamed they could have come back from that?
45-0 Redskins on opening night.
Of course, now Barry Sanders didn't play in that game.
Yeah, right.
Well, he made some moves yesterday that I still don't believe. Bart Connor would have been proud of him.
1st and 10 at the 34-yard line. Young is 12 of 13. Young throws. It's caught underneath at the 38 by Taylor. He takes it to the 41-yard line. It's stopped by Morrissey.
Again, a look at Taylor doing what he does so well, making people miss after he catches the football.
Bay Bridge on this sparkly December night. Not much traffic. Everybody's home watching the game. We hope. We'll play the Nielsen book, too.
Things are kind of quiet in Detroit and Chicago. Maybe things are lightening up a little in Chicago, however.
Look at that. Almost 12 yards per offensive play. I mean, that's astonishing.
2nd and 2. Young throws, and it's batted in the air and incomplete. Taylor was the intended receiver, and he batted it to avoid the interception. Wolford and Carrier had him sandwiched.
The fair defense coming into the night after last week. They were 3rd overall in the National Football League defensively. Now watch Taylor. Makes the move, bats it away from a potential interception. A lot of presence.
Boy, he batted it up in the air. I'm sure he was trying to bat it down, but it ends up being batted up in the air, and he kept it a live ball. And if it wasn't for the fact that Carrier came in to make the hit, that might have come right to him. And Vince Tobin hasn't seen this happen to his club in quite some time. There's a guy who's probably going to interview for a head coaching job after this season.
3rd and 2, and there's another first down as the catch is made by Rice, and he's tackled by Singletary. And, of course, we'll discuss it. We'll detail it in the second half with all of the coaching changes. Jerry Burns retiring. John Robinson, of course, resigning. Lindy Infante fired yesterday. Dan Henning in San Diego fired today.
And 2 coaches here, George Seifert and Mike Ditka, that'll have a struggle to keep their staffs intact. I mean, Holmgren, the offensive coordinator of the 49ers, always a candidate. Vince Tobin certainly on the other side. John Rowland, their offensive running back coach. There's Mike Holmgren right there in the center panel. His name comes up virtually with every coaching vacancy in the NFL. Had some offers in the past. What, Phoenix?
And the Jets. Young, mistake, takes off. And the Bears just can't stop the 49ers. It doesn't matter what San Francisco does.
Dave Young again with the pump fake. Good coverage downfield, pulls it down, and he has excellent speed, even with the knee problem, with the brace on it. And Mike Ditka is watching the defense destruct, and he hasn't seen that in a long time. Watch this pump fake. He pulls it down. The defensive linemen go up to try and bat it down, and they're caught flat-footed, and he just sprints for the first down.
Well, you don't see very many pump fakes with that kind of velocity where the guy doesn't lose the ball.
2-minute warning, and now it's time for our regular feature on what's new in the world of sports science and technology. Two minutes remaining in the half. San Francisco on top 21-0. It's been all 49ers, and of course, not only are they happy at Candlestick, but in Detroit, they are ecstatic. The Bear defense has been a sieve. It is 1st and 10. 49ers at the 32-yard line. Young has had a brilliant night. Doesn't sparkle on that one, though. Jerry Rice, the intended receiver, covered by Wolford. And we have in Detroit, or in Pontiac specifically, Wayne Fonts, the coach of the Detroit Lions, is hooked up. Congratulations on a terrific season. We caught you before on our preview monitor, Wayne, lighting up a Red Auerbach type victory cigar.
No, I'm not going to light it up. I'm not going to light it up yet.
But you like the way this one is going so far.
I sure do. The 49ers are a great football team, and they're a team that should be in the playoffs. They're an outstanding football team.
And, of course, Wayne, so much at stake for your club. A 49er victory tonight gives you the week off, and you know how big that is for a club going into playoffs.
Oh, we really could use this. So many guys injured, and this football team that I've coached all year, they've done a super job. The players have deserved to get the week off. The players deserve to be in the playoffs. The players have done a great job here, and so has my staff.
Wayne, coming back from that opening day loss to Washington, I've never seen a team look quite so low coming off of that. You have to be very proud of what you've done there.
Well, I'll tell you what, again, it was a team effort, guys, and again, I can't say enough about my coaching staff and this football team. They played very hard. No one gave us a chance to be where we are right now, but the people right here in Detroit, and they're all loving this thing. Come on, 49ers, we need you. Come on, baby.
Okay. We'll check back with you. It is 3rd and 10 for the 49ers and 32 as Steve Young under pressure, but scrambles, chase, and he is dragged down to the 24-yard line. He didn't quite get the first down as John Roper makes the tackle, and that's the first time the 49ers are faced with a 4th down play, and Young is a little slow in getting up.
Of course, that interview was carried on WLS, our Chicago affiliate, and we can only imagine how pleasantly that was received in Chicago. This has been a poor outing so far by the Chicago Bears, and let's watch closely. Here's Steve Young. How does he land on it?
His left knee, and he comes right down on it, and he grimaces with the pain. That could also be from the brace itself.
Looks like he had
appear to be all right.
Looks like he had a pin back underneath him when he rolled.
41-yard attempt by Kofer, who's had a dreadful season. This one is good. He had actually
prior to that kick been under 50%, which is like a baseball player hitting about 130.
Well, what, the only kicker in the league and the only team in the league where their field goal percentage is under that 50% mark. Of course, on the other side, you know, Kevin Butler of the Bears heading into the playoffs, he needs to work himself out of somewhat of a slump as well. That's a concern for the Bears as they get ready for the playoffs.
He's got a bit of an injury problem, and it's troubling him for the last few weeks. Kind of inside the leg. He described it with a whole bunch of fancy medical terms that only kickers understand, but it's kept him from practicing enough. And he says he now can practice. He thinks he's got it back together again, and Mike Ditka believes he does also.
Well, the Bears down tonight 24-0 in 152 minutes and 3 seconds is about 2.5 games worth.
Interesting. One of the problems that the 49ers, a lot of people think they have as a problem is Joe Montana. And Al had an interesting conversation with him. You'll hear at halftime, as well as the president of the National Football League, Neal will talk about something new for the World League of American Football.
Gopher kicks off with 1:38 to go in the half. At the 12-yard line, here's Dennis Gentry. And good coverage again by the 49ers, who've done a splendid job on kickoff coverage tonight, and they certainly had enough practice at it. Mitch Donahue makes the tackle. And there it is, Toyota halftime report. Joe Montana, by the way, is coming along very well. We talked to him about his physical condition. He said originally they didn't think he'd be able to start throwing until April. He says he feels great. He's trying to get them to push it up to January next month.
Anyone that can knock a 3-wood out of Candlestick Park, as he did last night, must be all right.
And he was standing next to Steve Bono at the 22-yard line. 1st and 10, Chicago. Harbaugh. And that is nearly picked off. Intended for Dennis Gentry, covered by Romanowski. There's a lot of speculation in regard to the 49ers about their quarterback situation. People forget last year they actually protected among their 37 all three. Montana, Young, and Steve Bono was protected. I asked Carmen Policy because there's been some question about what do you do with somebody like Montana who's going to be 36 years old. He said there is no question. He is protected. With Bono or Young, you don't know. I mean, do they trade one or what happens in the offseason? A lot of interesting possibilities.
They must be thankful they didn't trade any of them this year.
Yes.
They needed all of them.
Here's Anderson up to the 29-yard line. But they are certainly dealing from a position of strength. And things are so hot for the Niners, they're able to take their timeouts on defense with a 24-0 lead. The Bears just want to get into the locker room. Just thinking about the 49ers, and gents, would you agree if they were going into the playoffs, the only team that would be favored against them in any given game would be the Redskins?
Absolutely.
In the NFC.
And that's because the game would be at RFK. I'm not so sure about if the game was here at Candlestick.
But for the 49ers, it was too little, too late. 10 wins is not good enough for them or the Eagles this year. And 3rd and 4, Harbaugh throws. That's incomplete. Wendell Davis was there. He was covered by Dave Waymer, and it's 4th down.
And you understand now why the 49ers elected to call that timeout. They should get the ball back in good field position. They lead 24-0. They'd like to put up some more, and I would love to be in the locker room. Not near that man, but I'd love to be in there just to listen to what he has to say. I don't know what you do. You're getting ready to go in the playoffs. You're going to play this weekend, this Sunday, against Dallas, and what do you do to try to pull this team back together again? Well, they are just getting ripped.
Buford to punt. Taylor. He's out of bounds up at the 46. Last time we were here for the Bears and the 49ers on a Monday night, I think it was 1987, same sort of first half for Chicago, and Ditka went off the field setting a new regional record for a gum throw.
Well, Frank talked about what does Mike Ditka say. In the second half, the Bears have to try to do something positive. I mean, they've got to come out of this game feeling good about at least something that they did.
if they can come back, have a couple of good offensive drives in the second half, even if they don't win the ball game, they would not want to leave here with the feeling that they were routed. And if they can somehow crawl back into it, Ditka can use it as some kind of a foundation, a building block to try to get things back towards a good week of practice.
1st and 10 at the 45-yard line. Young hits Taylor. First down at the 38-yard line, stopped by Wolford. The Niners have 2 timeouts left.
I'll tell you, that is as good as it gets by Steve Young. Over the linebackers with enough velocity on the ball to make the completion. That was spectacular.
1st and 10 at the 38 with 46 left. And that's incomplete, in and out of the hands of Jones, who was covered by Carrier. 36 seconds remaining.
A well-timed hit there by Mark Carrier, the Pro Bowler, and boy, what a find he's been. There's David Tate down on the ground. Tough to tell what's wrong with Tate.
Well, that field apparently will be vacant this weekend. They certainly hope it remains in that condition this weekend, and they can sit in that club and watch the wild card games on television. And then, of course, as we say, not only would they have the week off, but Detroit guaranteed to host a game in round 2.
There hasn't been a playoff game in the Motor City in a long time either.
And one would think that, in all probability, the Dallas Cowboys would have preferred to go to Pontiac, play indoors where at least you have a kind of a neutral field instead of going to Soldier Field where God knows what kind of weather you'll have.
24 points in 4 possessions, and the 5th one is still alive.
2nd and 10 because of that injury to Tate. The Bears had to be charged with a timeout under the rules. 49ers have 2 timeouts left and 36 seconds on the clock. 2nd and 10. Young again with terrific protection. Here's Sherrard making the catch and taking it down to the 17-yard line. His first catch of the game, tackled by Douglas.
And another brilliant pass by Young. Again, over a defender into the arms of Sherrard.
If you're a Bear fan, this is X-rated. This is a whooping.
Triple X. Wednesday night.
That's what the 49ers are doing, but when you watch them play tonight, you wonder why.
From the 17, Young into the end zone, and that busted up at the last moment, intended for Taylor, and Lemuel Stinson was there to cover.
Boy, almost had an interception. Stinson already has 4 on the year and has really turned in a very credible year for the Bears, and that was just good inside coverage. See, watch how he's going to take the inside away effectively from John Taylor. Doesn't pick up the ball at the last moment, but there is virtually no way for Steve Young to get that ball in a position where Taylor could have caught it beyond Stinson.
21 seconds left. Niners have 1 timeout. They lead 24-0. Carter in motion. Young inside the 10. He takes it to the 5-yard line with 12 seconds. Timeout 49ers. Their final one with 10 ticks.
I thought Steve Young was, and he is limping. Look at him head back towards the sideline. Steve Young is now beginning to limp noticeably. But I thought he was going to take a terrific shot, and he ended up slipping that thing, and I think 2 Bears collided, and the major collision was there. But Young now, as he headed over to talk to the sidelines, has really got a noticeable gait with the left leg still bothering him. But watch this as he goes downfield. Watch how he's going to cut to the inside. There's the hit he avoids right there. Oh, Tom Rathman might have been his teammate that took that shot.
I think he's also very unfamiliar with wearing that brace, and the brace itself can hurt to wear. And again, it's on the left leg, and there's a very sort of a gingerly placed left foot as he cuts back to the right. But he has time to put the ball in the end zone with the pass. And that's what they're going to try to do.
Yeah, they can't run the ball. The 49ers don't have any timeouts left.
1st and goal from the 6. Rice in motion. He stops, sets in the slot. And it's a fumble, and the Bears finally get a very big break.
Looks like Tim Ryan, the defensive tackle, has the ball.
The play is over.
And I tell you what, when you're a defensive lineman and you get your hands on the ball, you're not going to stop just because they're blowing the whistle. You're going to keep going. Ryan had his moment, and he said to Tom Rathman, "Come and get me."
Well, he hasn't had that ball in his hands since the sophomore year at USC.
Well, there is the first thing all half that went right for the Chicago Bears.
I mean, yeah, it would have been tough to come back from down 31, wouldn't it?
Yes. Look at Ryan. The whistles are blowing all over the field. One thing about Tom Rathman, he'll come over and oblige a guy. If there's a player on the field that's never going to shy away from a little headbutting, it's Tom Rathman. And he was more than happy to go over and greet Mr. Ryan.
Looked like a scene from the Cheyenne Rodeo Day.
Yeah, now, does that look like a guy that'll come over and whistles are just a minor inconvenience to guys like Rathman?
Final play of the half, barring a penalty.
And there is a 49er defensive back 45 yards away from the line of scrimmage.
He's in Marin County. Harbaugh, well, that'll look good on the stat sheet, and that's all. Meanwhile, a terrible first half for Chicago.
Well,
and a perfect first half for San Francisco and Detroit.
At this point in
Montana
time,
at halftime.
At this point in time, you'd have difficult time telling which of these teams is going to the playoffs and which is going home.
24-0. We'll return with Monday Night Football, our halftime activities after this message from the NFL and a word from our ABC station.
Yeah.
Philadelphia 5 and 49ers 3.
And that is indeed represented on the scoreboard, those figures. Over 200-yard advantage to the San Francisco 49ers, and they just haven't been stopped. Every time they've had the ball, they have just relentlessly moved it down against the Chicago Bears, who, by the way, even though you wouldn't have guessed it by watching the first half, have an excellent defensive football team.
Third against the pass, third overall, seventh against the run.
Well, look at it this way. The Bears have only given up an average of 268 yards per game through their 15 games coming into tonight's game. And what was that? The 49ers already have 355?
355, and that would be 710 for a game if you stretch it out.
Yeah.
Don't even think about it.
Second half kickoff is run back out to the 17-yard line. In fact, the National Football League record for yards in a game is 735, all the way back in 1951 by the Rams. And that's the only time any team has ever eclipsed 700 yards. And there is an injured Bear on the kickoff. I believe that is Anthony Morgan. It is. So here go the Bears to start the second half. At their own 17-yard line, they trail 24-0. Davis left, Waddle right, and they begin with Anderson and Muster in the backfield. And Jennings in motion. Harbaugh hits Muster, and he's wrestled down by Waymer up at the 22-yard line. It'll be 2nd and 5.
Muster, of course, played his collegiate football just a little south of here. #1 draft pick out of Stanford that is a Mr. doing everything for the Chicago Bears. Good receiver and good running back, and he's missed quite a bit of time this year, and they have missed him. So this tandem is in there, 35 and 25. They have been effective. When they have not been there, they have not.
2nd and 5, and they have Kozlowski in the game. Anderson doesn't go very far. He is stopped by Larry Roberts. And clearly they're very happy at the Silverdome. A lot of the Lions looking on. And there's the great linebacker Chris Spielman in his San Francisco 49er t-shirt. And so far, this has been a pretty early Christmas gift for you guys, Chris.
Oh, it certainly is. We're excited about how the game is going. More or less, we need the break to get some of the players healthy.
Chris, I think so much publicity goes to Barry Sanders in the offense. A lot of people might overlook what a quality defensive team you have in Detroit.
Well, it was to the point where 2 years ago, 1 or 2 guys would be making plays. This year, we have enough guys making plays all along the team and really keeping things simplified for us people.
play. Tom Waddle made the catch, but not enough for a first down. So things very much going the Detroit Lions' way.
Chris Spielman from Massillon, Ohio. Wayne Fonts, their head coach, played high school football in Canton, Ohio. Pretty well represented here by Stark County alums there, Chris.
Well, I remember hearing stories about you at Glenwood, I believe. Which they did close the school down. That should tell you something about how old you are, Dan.
Yeah, no kidding. It fell down.
Here's Taylor returning the punt, and he's knocked out of bounds by Tate at the 35-yard line. Chris with a lot of stories about Dan. Unfortunately, none that he can tell on the air. 12:55 left in the third. 24-0 San Francisco. '49ers have the ball for the first time in the half. The Bears tonight allowing only 268 total yards per game. And the Niners running up 355 in the first half alone. The Bears number 3 in the league coming in. First down San Francisco. Back up top they go. Dexter Carter makes the catch. And Dexter Carter might have enough for a first down. He's out of bounds near the marker at the 45-yard line. Jim Morrissey with the tackle.
Boy, and one of the ways that Dexter Carter picks up all that extra yardage is he had Jerry Rice downfield throwing a block. I mean, in a game with no implications at all for the 49ers, in a game where a lot of guys might be tempted, let's just get out of here without getting hurt and go home and enjoy Christmas, you've got a superstar like Jerry Rice downfield throwing blocks. A real indicator of what kind of a football team this 49ers squad is.
First and 10 at the 45-yard line. Young has had a tremendous night. Oh, one of his rare mistakes is John Taylor had beaten the coverage, but it was overthrown. He got behind Stinson.
And once again, Young, who was under pressure, did not quite have enough time to be as accurate as he would have liked to have been, but it was a good pre-read, and he had the man who was in single coverage, and again, it was Lemuel Stinson. Stinson only goes 5'9", while he's trying to cover Jerry Rice at 6'2".
Well, there it was at the start of the game, passing rating, and Young with his night, he is on top. Now, there are a lot of things that go into this. We won't begin to attempt to explain them because they're understood only by Steve Hurt and any living Nobel Prize winner in physics. That's it. Nobody else knows what in the world this pass rating is. From the 45-yard line, here's Dexter Carter across the 50 to the 49 of Chicago.
Sort of like a Nielsen rating, isn't it?
Well, you're probably right.
Steve Bono looking in. Did such a fine job. Had 6 starts, won 5 games.
Kenny Wolf, our producer, tells us that he's been informed that Anthony Morgan has a sprained right knee and that he definitely will not be back tonight.
But that's a pretty good preliminary report after a guy gets wheeled off the field. Well, you hope it is.
Yeah, keep in mind, though, a sprain, depending on the severity of the sprain, is really an indicator that there could be something torn in there as well. So you hope it's good news.
3rd and 5. As Young throws, and that's incomplete, getting a hand in with Stinson on the pass intended for Taylor.
And this will bring about a rare punt by the 49ers.
Mike Ditka, not a happy man, clearly, and not very happy, even though he begged off yesterday when he was asked by you, Dan, last night what he thought in regard to Buffalo not playing Thurman Thomas or Jim Kelly against Detroit in a game Detroit won and forced the Bears to win this one to get the bye week.
But for whatever it's worth, Steve Young just walked off. He could not run off the field, went over and sat down on the bench and shook his head as he went by the coaches, so I don't know that we're going to see him again.
Prokop's kick is fair caught at the 12-yard line by Johnny Bailey.
Al, to take your point a step farther, I talked to some of the Bear players down on the field, and without naming names, they were not happy. They were decidedly unhappy with Buffalo's choice to sit those players out, and really, you can't argue with what Marv Levy did. Marv Levy wants to win a Super Bowl, and Jim Kelly and Thurman Thomas are obviously very integral parts of the Buffalo Bills. I'm not taking sides one way or
Holding
another, but
before the kick. Number 98 of the kickers, 10 yards, still 4th down.
But Big Mike maintained the attitude that you ought to have to do it yourself. And that was the situation for the Chicago Bears tonight. They had the opportunity to do it for themselves, and they are falling well short of that.
He also said you have to do what's good for your team. And I think he was implying that Marv Levy had to do what he felt was right in resting Kelly, who has been hurt on and off all year, and Thomas, who also probably needed the break. He was shaken up in that last game. Antonio Goff was the man who was penalized, forcing this second kick, and that works to the Bears' benefit by about 16 yards. Instead of the 12, they get it at the 28. 11:04 remaining, third quarter. Steve Young stopped on his initial drive tonight, but he's done very little wrong in what has been a sensational outing for him and for the 49ers, both offensively and defensively. They lead 24-0. Chicago first and 10 at the 28-yard line. Little swing pass is caught by Mustard. Gain of about 4. One of the big stories in San Francisco this week has concerned Bill Walsh. Will he come back to the 49ers? Not as a coach. He's indicated he has no desire to coach anywhere. But will Bill come back in the front office of the 49ers? And there have been a lot of cryptic answers to some pointed questions and a lot of non-answers. But earlier today, I talked to the 49er team president, Carmen Policy, who had some very interesting observations. As Harbaugh on 2nd and 7 throws, and it's Mustard underneath for the catch. Carmen Policy, and there he is in the middle. He's the president. Ed DeBartolo is the owner. Carmen told me today that when Walsh's season is over, meaning after the AFC Championship game, he, DeBartolo, and Walsh are going to sit down and talk about a variety of options, including full and part-time positions with the 49ers. Now, Bill was very cryptic in an interview with Dick Enberg the other day on NBC, but this is what Policy said tonight. That story is alive. 3rd and 3 from the 35-yard line.
If it wasn't, it is now.
It's very alive. Anderson is rolled down at the 42. Now, what it amounts to is that the 49er coach, Bill Walsh, when he was the coach, had all of the input into player personnel. Seifert does now, too. Apparently, they would like Walsh's input again into player personnel decisions, if it can be worked out.
And, of course, as everybody knows, Bill Walsh is the #1 NFL analyst at NBC, and you have to wonder what his future is at NBC if these talks are underway, and what sort of ramifications we're going to see there as far as Bill Walsh's television future.
Bill Walsh has one more year on his contract at NBC. At the 42-yard line, 1st and 10 for Chicago. Harbaugh throws, and Mustard makes the catch. And, of course, you have to tie in this story, and it's not that we're making implications where there is nothing to be implicated, but take this for what it's worth. Bill Parcells is also on the staff at NBC. Will Bill Parcells go back to coaching next year? Again, guys like Buddy Ryan and Bill Walsh and Bill Parcells have become masters at doing the tango and the tap dance when asked about these things.
Well, I spoke with Bill Parcells this morning. I talked to him. I have not talked to him since his surgery, and he said there are a whole lot of people talking. Nothing is intimate as far as I'm concerned. Nothing is going on that's going to happen right away, and he just wanted to thank all the people for sending the cards and the letters. It was a Bill Walsh statement.
There's the catch by Keith Jennings.
A Bill Parcells statement.
Well, let me ask you this, Frank. When somebody says nothing is imminent, to me that means no comment.
I think that's probably true, except I think Bill has been so concerned, and rightfully so, with what's going on with his physical condition. He had just got off a treadmill. He had done 2 miles. He was so happy about everything that has worked out for him physically. I mean, the other way of looking at it, when someone says nothing is imminent, that means nothing is going to happen right away, but something is going to happen. And, you know, that's not the only move available to Walsh. Maybe Bill Walsh is leaving the NFL Live set, maybe going up to the booth.
From the 26, you're talking about Bill Parcells. From the 26-yard line, the catch is made. Touchdown to Neal Anderson.
Did I say Bill Walsh? Yeah, obviously I meant Bill Parcells. And there's always that option available as well.
That was what the Bears needed to have happen here early in the third quarter. Be able to move the football, get a little confidence back, get something up on that scoreboard. We had a big goose egg, and here is Hanks, the cornerback, the rookie from Iowa. Neal Anderson, we talked about him earlier, works well out of the backfield, works good as a wide receiver, and he just blows by Hanks, who perhaps getting just a little not careful enough out there in the corner. Things have gone so well for them. And Anderson puts it in the end zone.
Harbaugh on that drive, 6 for 6 for 72 yards with 7:30 to play in the third quarter. So the Bears showing life.
Well, the 49ers faked the rush right there and got the Bears to flinch.
Snap, false start, number 78 on the offense.
Keith Van Horn.
Not fair. The defensive guys can move, and you can't. That's what offensive linemen say. And I think it was Ted Washington that faked like he was coming across the line and got the flinch out of Van Horn. Take a look here on the right side of your screen. Did you see Washington there? He jumped first, and then in fact, they got the whole right side of the Bear line to move, not just Keith Van Horn, who's turned in a very credible game tonight. Has spent a lot of time blocking Charles Haley and has really been effective. The longtime right tackle from USC. Good football play.
Bears scoring for the first time in this stadium since '85. They were shut out in '87, shut out in '89, and shut out for 37-30 tonight. Extra point by Butler. And it is 24-7. So the Bears, thanks to Anderson, get on the scoreboard, but still trail by 17. The group, because they'll get a week off next week if the 49ers hold on to this lead here. 24-7 is the score. Gardocki kicks off, and it's out of bounds, and the 49ers will take over at the 35.
And the Lions and the thumbs up sign, which has really become their rallying cry and symbolizes what the Lions are trying to do with the balance of their football season, playing it in tribute to their fallen teammate Mike Utley, who continues to rehabilitate and try to get his life back in order after suffering that devastating, paralyzing injury in the game against the Rams. And certainly the Lions are to be commended in the way that they are playing this season, having dedicated it to Mike Utley, a very courageous young man who on his way off the field on the stretcher flashed that thumbs up to the Silverdome crowd. And this season, as far as Detroit is concerned, is, Mike, this season is for you.
Lions 6-0 since the Utley injury against the Rams. From the 35-yard line, Steve Young finds the open man, and this time it's in the person of Dexter Carter, and that's a 15-yard gain. And a first down for San Francisco with 7:10 to play in the third quarter.
Young doing his imitation of Joe Montana, looking left, looking to the middle, having time, finding the open receiver to the right. Let's take a look at him again. He has got a cannon. He's very confident he can put that ball out to the sideline. There's a quick look to the left, to the middle. And he has a strong arm and enough confidence to get it to Carter and get the first down.
Puts him over 300 yards. He's 18 for 26 at 301.
Now he changes at the line of scrimmage. Pre-read by Young. Single coverage.
Making the catch. That's a 9-yard gain. You know, we were talking about coaches before, and would-be coaches and former coaches, and how cryptically they talk. And then there's Buddy Ryan. Buddy, did you see he came out the other day and said, and he knows he's a candidate for the Rams job, if the Rams hire me, I'll put the Raiders on the back page. Well, I know that Buddy Ryan and Chuck Knox are the Rams' two top candidates right now. And it's my understanding that the Rams have permission to talk to Chuck Knox, though Seattle's official comment is no comment.
What a trip for Chuck Knox. Started there, what, in the mid-70s, went to Buffalo, then Seattle.
Here's Carter. And he has the first down. The deal on Knox, though, in his contract is this. It's a two-way deal. They can end it, or he can end it in a 30-day window. So by giving the Rams permission to talk to him, even though Seattle is saying no comment, it's kind of a moot point in a way.
And one thing about Chuck Knox, though, he has been very emphatic in saying that I want to coach in the NFL. And if it is not with the Seattle Seahawks, I would very much like it to be someplace else. The man can still coach.
You aren't kidding. The other thing about him is that he has been superb wherever he has been. And given the talent he has had at Seattle over the years, he has put together, I think most people agree, a remarkable record there. He did it at Buffalo, and he did it, frankly, with the Rams.
First and 10 at the 37-yard line, and no play.
One of the best around, Chuck Knox, and has been for a long time.
False start before the ball was snapped. Number 67 on the offense. 5 yards, still first down.
Let's finish up some unfinished Rams business. John Robinson, of course, resigning last week, coaching his last game last night. Had been considered a candidate. A lot of speculation at Arizona State. I talked to Charles Harris, the athletic director at Arizona State, earlier today. He said absolutely not. He will name his coach, Will Harris, at ASU after the bowl games. It will not be John Robinson.
Well, you were really busy today, weren't you?
Well,
did you talk to the man in the moon, too?
And he said, I got to justify that
green
phone.
cheese.
Got to justify the phone bill on the expense account before I get a call, right?
You had breakfast.
First down from the 42-yard line.
Hey, a major hold. Oh, Roy Foster waving off the referee, Red Cashin, who flagged him for holding.
Remember the night here in Candlestick when we focused on the moon and the jet soaring through?
Yeah. Oh, by the way, I talked to Debbie Deerdorf earlier today. She wants you to bring home some sourdough.
Holding. Number 67 on the offense. 10 yards, still first down.
I spoiled her bringing that jambalaya home from.
Yeah, I spoke to her and she said, I'd prefer jewelry.
Here is Roy Foster right here. Let's go ahead and take a look at the hold on the inside move. Red Cashin thought this was holding. Nah. Come on, Red. He just horse collars Steve McMichael. You know, McMichael's a good story we ought to talk about after this play.
First and 25.
How come you both talked to my wife today? I'm noticing a trend here.
That's another story. Young avoids the sack, and that's incomplete, intended for Raffin, who is double covered, and that's on the safety blitz of Sean Gale, who will be going to the Pro Bowl, so named today because Tim McDonald of Phoenix is hurt.
Nice segue with the Pro Bowl, Al, because Steve McMichael is not going to the Pro Bowl. And if ever a defensive lineman deserved to go to the Pro Bowl, I think it's McMichael. One of the problems, though, is that the way they pick the Pro Bowl teams, they use a 3-4 defense, and they only pick 2 defensive tackles. And it's really kind of tough to make it when only 2 per conference are selected to the team.
Look at
Look at what, Frank?
Look at the record he's had. That's remarkable. He doesn't have a Reggie White outside of him or a Clyde Simmons.
Second and 25. And Young going deep for Taylor, and it's knocked away at the last second by Donnell Wolford. Saves a touchdown.
That's a great play by Wolford. First round draft pick, 89. A first round pick that Bears got from the Raiders in exchange for Willie Gault. Look at that play. That's great corner, because that ball was perfectly thrown.
Great coverage.
Beautiful. And not a bad shot, guys. We'll give it to you from all angles. Spectacular.
Third and 25, 4:36 to go. San Francisco up 24-7. 5-man rush, and the pass is incomplete, intended for Sherrard. So the Bears hold, and they will get the ball back with about 4.5 minutes to play in the third quarter.
Mike Ditka getting perhaps what he wanted after he came out here in the second half. A little stouter defense. The Bears able to move the ball, put some points on the scoreboard, put something back together again, and get on the airplane, go home, pull it back together again, start thinking about Dallas.
Prokop's kick taken to the 16-yard line. This is Johnny Bailey. And there's not a flag. Here's something came after the play.
It threw me too, Al. Yeah. Somebody was throwing a football on the Bears sideline, and it looked like a flag was was coming sailing in. I caught it too.
And normally we can tell the difference between the color of pigskin and a yellow flag, but right now we are, I believe, a little higher than the Goodyear blimp in this broadcast position.
If fog came in, it would be below us.
4:21 remaining in the third quarter. Chicago has it at the 36-yard line. Harbaugh throws, and the catch is made on the near side by Wendell Davis. Close to a first down, and that's the football press box at Candlestick Park, which they have continued to expand through the years to the point where they can now get about 67,000 in here for football.
Meanwhile,
yes,
not wanting to be accused of overhyping a ball game.
Yes.
With 4:07 left in the third quarter, if the Chicago Bears should score a touchdown on this drive, all of a sudden we're down to a 10-point ball game.
And the Bears trying to write some history because, as we stated before, they have never won a game in which they trailed by 21 or more points. Here is Mark Green, who had a big week last week against Tampa Bay. He gets to the 49-45, and that's a gain of 8, tackled by Waymer and Hanks.
Green, a fifth-round draft pick at 89, hurt his knee in the 2 previous years, and as Al mentioned, had over 80 yards rushing a week ago. Youngster out of Notre Dame.
Second and 2, the ball at the 45-yard line. There it is last week with Anderson on the shelf. Remember, Neal has missed the last 2 weeks with his hamstring. Big day for Green against the Bucs. Harbaugh is perfect in this half. He's 9 out of 9. And he's now 9 out of 10 because of the pressure. And the pressure that time applied by Larry Roberts. Third and short coming up. Larry Roberts playing a lot because Kevin Fagan hurt and gone for the year.
Fagan ended up having surgery and, as Al said, out. And a wealth of defensive linemen on this football team. I mean, even, Jim Burt is here. And, they have always gone out and found people to back up their quality players. If the 49ers have had a trademark over the years, it has been their, I guess, undying commitment to having as many good football players on their roster. Not necessarily just their starters, but they have always stacked their roster all the way down to the 45th man.
Third and 2, and here is Anderson straight ahead, and it's going to be close. Has to get, as you can see, just about to the 43-yard line.
And if it is close, I would be surprised if they did not go for it at this point, down 24-7.
If one thing reminds me of the 49ers and their commitment to personnel over the years, it would be their year at nose tackle when they had Michael Carter starting, backed up by Jim Burt and Fred Smerling.
The other thing is they've been drafting so far down in the draft. They've been so high each and every time, and they're going to go on fourth.
4th and inches at the 44-yard line. Jennings in motion. A sneak by Harbaugh. 49ers think they've stopped him.
He didn't sneak very far.
No.
Well, they marked it short of the line of scrimmage, so he definitely did not get the first down.
Haley and the defense of the 49ers.
Everyone takes a gap, and they just shut Harbaugh down.
Well, let me tell you something. When you got 4th and 6 inches, and you run a quarterback sneak, and they don't even bother to measure to see whether you got it or not, that's an unsuccessful quarterback sneak.
Pretty good defense. That's behind a Pro Bowl center, Jay Hilgenberg.
So the 49ers take over at their own 45-yard line. The Bears cannot convert. We're down to 2:11 to play in the third quarter. And it's a 17-point 49er lead. Harbaugh says it all for you, lip readers. From the 45-yard line.
And for those of you that aren't lip readers, be glad you're not.
You get the idea. Dexter Carter up to the 49. Candlestick Park, site of the final game of the 1991 regular season. 49ers trying to finish at 10-6, but not going to the playoffs. Wrong conference this year. in the AFC 8-8 gets you in, as in the case of the Jets.
Yeah, 10-6. George Seifert, what, 14-2, wins the Super Bowl his first year, 14-2. By losing a fumble late in the game against the Giants, he doesn't go again to the Super Bowl. Done a pretty good job, and just the thought of perhaps Bill Walsh coming back and being a part of it is kind of interesting.
2nd and 7. Here's Rathman. Takes it all the way down to the 35-yard line. Sean Gale makes the tackle. Flag down. And this one is a roughing the passer penalty.
Yeah, Richard Dent. Steve Young just got to his feet and is moving none too gingerly.
Roughing the passer, number 95 of the defense. It'll be tackled. First down.
All right. Dent coming from the stand-up position, a safety blitz as well. And there's no doubt of that. You just don't take a man after he's already obviously released the ball right in front of you and throw him like that. That's,
well, not right in front of the fifth.
That'll get it.
Certainly don't.
Yeah, that'll get it 100 out of 100 times. And of course, it's replayed on the board here at Candlestick, and you can hear the crowd's reaction.
1st and 10, Niners at the 20-yard line. Carter. Morrissey makes the tackle after a gain of close to 5.
You know, as you watch Dexter Carter running with the football, one of the areas I think the 49ers will probably attempt to bolster next year, and that is at the running back. Of course, Roger Craig left last year in Plan B, and Ricky Waters, the youngster from Notre Dame, injured early in the summer, and they have plans for him, but you get the feeling that they would like to somehow pick up another running back. They flirted for a long time with Denver, Bobby Humphries. That never came about, but you get the feeling that's where they would definitely like to improve.
On the subject of the draft, when we start the 4th quarter, we'll show you how this game tonight impacts a little bit in that first round. And Young's going to take a timeout because he was going to get penalized. The play clock was down to 1. The game clock is down to 4 seconds.
You know, one thing that's interesting about the 49ers draft, they don't have a 2nd and a 3rd round draft choice next year because of the trade with Green Bay for Tim Harris. So, you know, we talked earlier about Bill Walsh possibly coming back in. It's going to be interested from the 49ers standpoint, but take a look up at the top of the draft where the 49ers are going to be well down in the pack.
Well, look at the right-hand column because it looks like the 49ers will win, and that would mean the Colts would get the 1 and 2 picks. The second one, a choice acquired from Tampa Bay. If the Bears were to win the game, the Rams would have the 2nd pick, and the Colts would go to number 3.
Should have had a live shot in Indianapolis.
It's a little late. The woebegone Colts setting all sorts of records for futility this year. But right now, a victory of sorts for Indianapolis. And you thought only Detroit had a rooting interest tonight, huh? Final play of the quarter. Taylor makes the catch and ends the quarter by getting to the 2, and the 4th quarter will begin with a 1st and goal. That is the end of the 3rd quarter at Candlestick Park in San Francisco. 49ers closing with a flourish. They lead 24-7. We'll return with Monday Night Football after this word from our ABC station. We're gathered there watching this one and very happy thus far as we start the 4th quarter. 1st and goal for the Niners. Steve Young on a roll. Steve Young with a touchdown.
Yeah, just relying on the speed, and a flag goes down late in the end zone, but Young is concerned whether or not they are going to give him the touchdown. It looked like he broke the plane with the ball.
You had a Jesse Sapolo spike as well. That may be a demonstration penalty.
You can't give the ball to somebody else and have him spike it. That is a demonstration penalty.
Unsportsmanlike conduct, demonstration foul, number 61 of the offense, 5 yards on the kickoff.
I think that was a non-playoff appearance frustration spike on the part of Jesse Sapoli. And I don't think George Seifer will be all that upset with him. No. Look at that, getting the ball across and leaving it there.
Yes. Gingerly. Cofer for the point after. 49ers tonight with 439 yards of total offense. And 5 seconds into the fourth quarter, they lead it 31-7. Fourth quarter in San Francisco under well, pretty close to a full moon. Close enough.
A spectacular moon, full or not.
Yep. Is that a possum hunting moon? What is that, Dan?
It's a bear hunting moon. In other words, the 49ers have used it to their advantage. The Bears have got hunting. Yeah. What is this thing here? This looks like a... I'm waiting for... Is that Godzilla? Right. My God, I'm waiting for Rodan. He'll show up here any moment.
Welcome to Tokyo. After the demonstration foul and the penalty of 5 yards, Niners kick off from the 30. Mike Cofer to boot it. .13-yard line, Dennis Gentry. He's out of bounds up at about the 37. And let's take a look at the numbers to the first 45 minutes of frivolity.
Do we have to? Look at that offensive performance by the 49ers. 437 total yards through 3 quarters of play.
The Bears have come back with a little of their own. They've put up 235. That's the Bears have allowed in, what, a couple of years?
Yeah, last couple, I guess. And this game's not over.
What they're doing is binding the knee, tightening it up again. They put the brace back on, and presumably we'll see more of Steve Young.
That's Charles Haley. You know, we were talking about Haley before, and, you know, he's made a lot of noise. He's done that from time to time. But one of the people in the 49er front office said, Haley's the kind of guy who likes to be unhappy.
Prior to the snap, number 94 on the defense in the backfield. The play is stopped, 5 yards, first down for offside.
Well, I know one thing. If I was a head coach in this league, he could be unhappy on my team anytime.
In other words, they take everything he says with a grain of salt.
Yeah. Charles just likes to, he's a vocal lad. But boy, he can play football, and he's going to the Pro Bowl again.
1st and 5. Harbaugh airs it out, and Wendell Davis makes the catch.
Nice.
Oh, that was a great catch.
I mean, that was pretty darn good coverage by Merton Hanks. I mean, that was just about as tight as a corner can be on a guy, and still give up the completion. There it is at the upper left of your screen. Watch how close Hanks ends up staying here with Davis. I mean, that ball was dropped in perfectly by Jim Harbaugh.
Good concentration on the part of Davis. Had hands in front of him, still looked it right in.
Well, look at that big cast on the right hand of Hanks. Still playing with that injury.
The timeout number 2 for San Francisco.
Niners take their second with 14:18 remaining in the fourth quarter at Candlestick. San Francisco by 24.
And Mike, I hope you're watching. This football team loves you. We're pulling for you, Mike. God bless you and thumbs up for you, Mike Utley. This is all for you, partner. Thank you.
And that sentiment is echoed by everybody around the National Football League.
You very well put, Wayne.
Thank you.
I guess good things happen to good people, and you have persevered this year, Wayne. A lot of good things have happened to your ball club, a lot of bad things, and yet somehow you kept your guys together.
Well, I'll tell you what, this is a football team we're very proud of. This whole city, this whole state of Michigan is proud of the football team. I am. They deserved it. We've gone through a lot of controversy. We've gone through a tremendous amount of injuries. They believed in one another. I'll tell you something. This may sound corny. This team loves each other, and I love my football team. And I love my staff. They've done a great job. My coaching staff has done a great job, and so has this football team.
Wayne, rumor has it that Barry Sanders really didn't know much about running the football until you took him under your wing and taught him all those moves. Can you share some of those?
I'm still trying to teach him. He still has the limp leg, and if he gets that done, he's going to be a great back. And I'll have to take over the rest of his tutelage. I'm excited about it. I'm so excited. God bless his football team. And bless the fans in Detroit.
3rd and 4 for the Bears here as Harbaugh takes it down to the 8-yard line, and that should be enough for
Wayne, light that. Wayne, light that cigar. Come on.
Can I light it up?
Yeah, light it up.
Jim, light my cigar.
Yeah, go for it.
All
right.
Let me light it up.
That's a great thing about being a head coach. You can make somebody else light your cigar.
Thank you, Detroit.
Well, all right, Wade.
So Wayne Font, with 13:26 left in the 4th quarter, lights up that big old stogie.
All the way.
Well, if Wayne Fonts is thanking Detroit, I think he ought to throw a healthy assist the 49ers way.
The Bears are a little short on that last play, so it's going to be 4th and inches. The last time the Lions won a division title would be 1983. They went to the playoffs that year and lost a crusher to the 49ers, 24-23.
But really, you have to go all the way back to the 50s when they had those great years, with the Bobby Lanes, the Doak Walkers, Joyce Bach, some of the great names in the world of pro football.
Well, the Bears are going to take a timeout and talk over this 4th and inches play up. 13:22 remaining in the 4th quarter.
Jim Harbaugh has been over to the Bears sideline 3 different times during that timeout and had to go back again. I don't know what they have called, but it is very complicated.
I don't think it's a sneak. It didn't work the last time. 4th and inches. No sneak. Mark Green. And Green lunging and should have the first down off a block by Darren Lewis. First down. 1st and goal. .13 minutes to play. 49ers on top, 31-7. It's bowl season. The Poland Weed Eater Independence Bowl will come your way this Sunday. Georgia against Arkansas.
I'm sure on a grass field.
With perfect terms. You got it.
It's not.
Oh, come on.
You got to play a weed eater bowl on a grass field, don't you?
Ate all the weed. First down from the 8. As Harbaugh throws incomplete. Intended for Davis, and there's the flag.
Don Griffin was there with the coverage.
And safety blitz on the part of Dave Waymer, flushing Harbaugh out, making him throw before he wanted to. Waymer is saying it wasn't me, but it wasn't. It was in the end zone.
Pass interference in the end zone. Number 29 on the defense. The ball will be placed on the 1-yard line. First down!
All right, red.
Here comes Griffin, 29. And working against Wendell Davis. I don't know what else he could have done.
Well, you saw his right hand made contact with the shoulder, and the official from behind saw it. That's what he called, but it didn't look like serious contact.
1st and goal. Green fumbles. It is picked up by Griffin.
Goodbye.
And Griffin has an escort.
Convoy, we've got them all.
Inside the 30, Don Griffin's going to go all the way.
Light up another cigar, Wayne.
Look at the entire 49er team empties the bench, and they come out to grab Griffin.
think, was it Romanowski that had the big hit, or was it DeLong? It was DeLong that made the hit. Keith DeLong made the hit that forced the fumble. And when George Seifert said, "This is our playoff game," his team responds. There's DeLong, just takes the legs of Green right out from under him, and the ball never touches the ground. Hits Don Griffin right on the shoulder pad, and Al called it right. He had an escort.
99 yards. It's the second Bear fumble inside the 5 tonight. The first, if you look back to one key play in the game, it's Waddle's fumble. And this is just the icing on the cake for the 49ers.
Another hit by DeLong, separating Green from the football and right into the arms of Griffin.
And how poetic is that? They were on the 1-yard line because Griffin got called for interference in the end zone.
Gopher for the point after. Well, the Chicago Bears have won a trip. Well, they were going to go home anyway, but they won a trip home to play in a wild card game. It would be Sunday against Dallas. And, well, sooner or later, Mike's going to vent it.
Harbaugh walking away from Ditka, thinking perhaps, hey, I didn't fumble it.
And we mentioned before, so much is made of the bye week or the lack of, but people, you can't emphasize enough the fact that what it means is you don't play that second round game at home. They're going to go on the road if they beat Dallas.
Well, and it's the double whammy, guys, because the Bears are playing tonight on Monday night, and they have a short work week to get ready for Sunday's game. Dallas played yesterday. They have the extra day, and so it's the worst possible scenario for the Bears.
Short week, red-eye flight home. Dallas and Soldier Field on Sunday, and then depending on the outcome of the Atlanta-New Orleans game, if Chicago were to win the game against Dallas, they would play the following week at either Detroit or Washington. Hofer kicks off, fielded at the 12-yard line. Bailey down to the 26, and the flag is down.
You know, one thing that would be somewhat of a plus for the Bears is if they would have played the Cowboys during the season. It would mean some, you know, fewer hours and a little less work for the coaching staff to try to put together a game plan. But the Bears didn't play the Cowboys, and so they really have to start from scratch in putting together a game plan, both offensively and defensively, for the Cowboys. And there's trainer Lindsey McClain of the 49ers there with the hat on, bent over an injured 49er. Do we have a number on this guy?
Goss. Antonio
Goss.
Or, yes, it is.
Illegal block during the return. Number 96 of the receivers. There'll be a 10-yard penalty from the dead ball spot. First down and 10.
Tim Ryan is 96.
One thing about the Bears, when they get ready for Dallas, it'll be like getting ready for San Francisco because they have tremendous speed on the outside. And this, a moment ago, the victory cigar, Wayne Foss with what a great year, rebounding from that humiliating loss at the beginning of the season to go 12-4.
Richard Dent, another one of the Bears that felt slighted by not being elected to the Pro Bowl team. Another great year for Dent. A year that, even though they've lost this game and lost it badly, they're still alive. They're in the playoff picture. The 49ers would gladly trade places with the Bears right now. Let's get that one thing clear. The Bears are in the playoffs. The 49ers are not.
You saw Mike Singletary a moment ago, the great middle linebacker. There had been some speculation he'd retire, but Mike did say last week that he does plan to come back and play in 1992.
Well, it was actually Singletary at the beginning of the year and during the summer was talking about that this was going to be his last year. He's talking about going into coaching, and I know one thing. I think that there's a star in the making there. If he chooses to make that his life's profession, It's hard for me to imagine that a guy like Mike Singletary couldn't get his point across to his players.
First and 10, and Peter Tom Willis is the quarterback now. Harbaugh is done for the night. And P.T. Willis is tackled at about the line of scrimmage by Pierce Holt. Peter Tom Willis, second year out of Florida State.
Yes, he came as part of the Willie Gall trade also. Peter Tom, a third-round draft pick. He hasn't played that much here because of the durability of Harbaugh, but he had a fine game last year against Detroit in relief of Harbaugh.
Second and 10, and that is picked off by Kevin Lewis. And he almost got in. Davis saves the touchdown at the 2.
This has gone beyond a mere route. This is becoming a mega route.
Peter Tom is not noted for one of the strong arms, and he tried to throw that out pattern when the receiver was smothered with the coverage. That's what Greg Landry, the former great quarterback of the Detroit Lions and Cleveland and a couple other ball clubs, and the offensive coordinator is trying to tell him, and Ditka is in there underlining it.
I know one thing, if Mike Ditka had a lump of coal in his mouth, there'd be a diamond by the time he was done chewing on it. Not a happy camper.
First and goal at the 2 with 11:27 to go. The Niners are on top 38-7. Once again, San Francisco has routed Chicago at Candlestick Park, as they have done through the 80s.
On the field, we have ruled an interception with no contact. The interceptor got up and ran the ball back. The play is being reviewed by instant replay.
Pretty self-explanatory by Red Cashing. They're trying to determine, I guess, whether or not the ball touched the ground or whether or not Lewis was touched when he was on the ground.
Nobody touched him, was whether or not he was scooped the ball up off the artificial surface. It didn't appear as though he did. He touched it well before he caught the ball. I'm sure this will stand. And again, the instant replay just kind of contradictory to what the league has tried to do to their own game, and that's speed it up.
Well, I've always said it's in the implementation of it, and clearly by now you would think that a decision could have been rendered.
Oh, there's a pretty good look at the football. You could see the football was really separated from Lewis's body. Whether or not we saw anything there was conclusive enough to turn it over.
The replay official, the play stands. First down.
First down. Red Cashin would make a great square dance bowler.
He does. Do-si-do.
Yeah. Be bad as a fight announcer either. Yeah. And in this corner.
Yeah. Let's get ready to rumble.
Oh, yeah. Michael Buffer will be so proud.
Yeah. First and goal from the 2. Harry Sidney joins the scoring brigade.
Major league block there by Jamie Williams, the motion man. Number 81. Big pop.
That looked pretty easy, didn't it?
Well,
Sidney sends the Bears down under.
But the 49ers have gone over.
That's really good.
They did that a while ago.
Yes, they did.
Well, we got plenty.
They went over by themselves. 44-7 the score.
He is one of the more traveled football players you'll ever know. Seattle in 81, Cincinnati 82, USFL 83 and 4 at Denver, then Memphis in 85, Montreal in the Canadian League in 86, and finally the 49ers in 87. And not only that, he is the emergency quarterback. A wishbone quarterback out of Kansas.
49ers really spreading it around. Everybody's getting in on this act tonight.
And still 11:24 to go. And it can't end soon enough for the Bears with that much time left. San Francisco's third touchdown of the quarter which is only 3 minutes and 36 seconds old.
A lot of frequent flyer miles in that group. Come from near and far.
49ers to kick off. And at the 3-yard line, Dennis Gentry.
I got to ask you guys a question.
Yes, sir.
Can this really be happening? I mean, are we really standing here presiding?
To 11-4 team also.
A 45-7 ball game.
Chicago with the ball at the 11-yard line as Peter Tom Willis scrambles, nearly has that one picked off. Dave Waymer had it, couldn't hold it.
Peter Tom, be careful, babe.
I'll say, if I'm Chicago right now, I'm not sure I don't keep it on the ground and just try to get out of here.
All these names should be a reminder that the three of us just don't show up at a ballpark and slap on a headset and start talking. When you see this production in action, it's mind-boggling the number of people it takes to get us on the air.
We need that top one.
Really?
More and more as the year goes on. Proud to be a part of it, guys and gals.
Indeed.
P.T. Willis on second down throws, and Waddle makes the catch. Has the first down. And is out of bounds up at the 27-yard line. Stopped by Kevin Lewis.
Waddle, of course, one of the great stories for the Bears this season, even though he coughed that ball up in the early going. He was cut by the Bears at the beginning of the season. They brought him back and, of course, became a starter when Ron Morris was injured and had 50 receptions coming into tonight. The classic, I guess, an overused term, and an overachiever out of Boston College.
He's caught 3 for 34, first down Chicago at the 27-yard line. 10:31 remaining. And Willis going deep, and the catch is, I believe, made and fumbled, but it is ruled down at the 31-yard line by the back judge, as Wendell Davis made the catch, and he was ridden down by Don Griffin, and the ground caused the fumble.
Well thrown ball by Peter Tom Willis. Good coverage on the part of Griffin. He was stride for stride with Davis, and that ball had to be laid in there absolutely perfectly, and it was.
We saw Davis, Frank, do this on the other side of the field to Merton Hanks, who had sensational coverage, and now he does it again. I mean, just as you commented before on his last reception, remarkable concentration.
Like looking in a mirror.
Yeah.
And the reception against Hanks.
First and 10 at the 31-yard line. Mark Green is stopped for no gain. Frank, what's your gut feeling about Parcells? What do you think? What do you think Bill's going to do next year?
My gut feeling is I don't think Bill will be coaching.
You don't think he'll be coaching?
I think maybe somewhere down the line. And that is strictly a gut feeling. He's a friend of mine. We talk occasionally, and see Judy occasionally, his wife. And I think Bill is breathing a big sigh of relief. He left the game, and he was not feeling all that well when he left it. And he's got a big break. The surgery went fine. He feels great. And I think he's just going to take it easy for a while. He's pretty darn good on television too. I think he'll be around there for a while.
Davis makes the catch, and that takes it down to the 10-yard line. But do you think he'll be satisfied? Will television give him enough satisfaction in the long run?
That's hard to say. I wouldn't want to speak for Bill Parcells, but yeah, the guy's won 2 Super Bowls. He keeps life in pretty good perspective. He asks the guys that have played for him, they know him much better. He is a very fundamental, basic guy. He's not a massive ego that needs to be massaged more than it's been massaged. But again, it's just speculation.
First and 10 as Willis lost one into the end zone, and Waddle makes the catch for the touchdown.
It's hard for me not to imagine Bill Parcells coaching. I mean,
well, he does it so well. I understand that, Dan. It's just, I think he walked away from it at the very top. He walked away from, I think, the best job in football. He's got great ownership. He's got a great football man in George Young. A lot of people said that we look at Waddle again with a great catch. A lot of people said that Bill Parcells wanted to do it all. I don't think that's the case whatsoever. And whether he comes back to it, of course, again, is going to be just pure speculation because he isn't telling me, or I don't think anyone else around him.
Well, it's pretty clear that if he wants it, the Green Bay job is his.
Well, I think several jobs would be his if he wanted them. But once again, I hope he walked away from.
I hope mine
well,
isn't one of them.
Maybe we're on the line, but I mean, he walked away from a great job.
Good news and bad news.
As you could say, brace yourself, mothers.
By the way, if you missed what we said earlier, I just wanted to go back over the Walsh thing one time. If you only heard this most recent mention of it, it's not the coach. This would be a front office position. So there's no question that George Seifert is here for, I would think, for quite some time as the coach.
As he should be.
Yep. Dexter Carter runs the kick back to the 30-yard line. Well, it's the end of the season, so we can take a look at the leaders. Steve Young is going to win that battle with Mark Rippon, apparently, unless he throws like 9 interceptions from here until the end of the game and don't count on it. Warren Moon throws for the most yards, and Steve Young most yards per pass. Jim Kelly, another great year, 33 touchdowns. Emmitt Smith won the rushing title yesterday, led in attempts. Thurman Thomas had a sensational year, averaging 4.9. League average is 3.9. Barry Sanders rushed for an average of 1 touchdown a game.
Of all the numbers we looked at, I think maybe the most impressive is Thurman Thomas's 4.9 yards per carry.
Yes.
And that left out all of the yards in receiving and all of the big plays he made, the third downs that he made. I had to pick a player of the year. He's mine.
Well, Jeffries caught his 100, but Art Monk still holds the record at 106. Michael Irvin, a fabulous year. Michael Haynes, who goes to the playoffs with Atlanta, 22.4. And Jerry Rice, 14 touchdown receptions. And the hand here is for Steve Young, who comes out after a great night. And thus we see the pro debut now of the rookie from Oregon, Bill Musgrave.
The Ducks are on the pond.
The flag attack. 2nd and 13. And this is Spencer Tillman taking it up to the 33-yard line.
If you're wondering about this young man, he was drafted out of Oregon by the Dallas Cowboys and then cut, I guess, in the final cut, signed by the 49ers, put on their practice squad. And here he is. 49er.
He looks like he should be in a Mark Twain movie, doesn't he?
As someone's child. I mean, he's a young-looking guy. Of course, he is a rookie, but he's a little wide-eyed right now.
3rd and 6 from the 34-yard line.
What do you think about half a dozen snaps this week?
Musgrave throws. Tillman makes the catch, and he is stopped at the 34-yard line. And 49ers will kick. Clock still ticking with 6:22 to play. San Francisco on top 45-14. And as we said before, the teams going to the playoffs in the NFC are very happy the 49ers are out.
Steve Young getting more kudos, well deserved too. I talked to him before the game and I asked him straight out. I said, can you move around enough to stay out of trouble? He said, I think I can go 4 quarters. He did more than that tonight.
Joe Prokop to kick. Green calls for the fair catch and makes it sort of unceremoniously at the 20-yard line.
Not much for style points, but a perfect 10 for effectiveness.
46-yard boot with 5:46. Other leaders, Sanders scored 16 touchdowns on the ground and 1 more for a total of 17. Thomas, yards from scrimmage again. That's 3 consecutive years Thurman has led the league in yards from scrimmage. Swilling with 17 sacks. And Ronnie Lott with 8 interceptions. Chip Lohmiller, a tremendous year.
And that did say Raiders behind Lott.
Tony Zendejas, in an abysmal season for the Rams, didn't miss a field goal. He was 17 for 17. And he's the first man in the history of the league over a full season to do that. Waddle taken down by Lewis. And there is Joe Montana. He is coming along just fine, he tells us. He wants to start throwing next month if they'll let him. ready to go. Steve Bono is there.
I think he really emerged as a future star himself.
I'm sure
they accommodate all three of them. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm sure Musgrave is standing there with young Montana and Bono going, yeah, I'll knock a couple of these guys out of the way next year. Bill, don't get too comfortable in that red jersey.
2nd and 6, and that's knocked down by Merton Hanks.
Meanwhile, for the Bears tonight, their most valuable player will be any player who will ride home to Chicago in the first-class cabin with Mike Ditka. It will be a long ride.
Well, it's a good thing Diana's here to be his seatmate on the way back. His wife.
I don't know. She's been married to Mike a long time. I don't know that she's going to want to sit there on the way back. Well, if nothing else worked out right for the Bears tonight, Ditka's got a great-looking leather jacket on.
Mm-hmm.
We'll get some fashion points.
Elsa Clint should be doing commentary.
Peter Tom got steamrolled
by Charles Haley.
Charles Haley, we've talked about him all night. He comes from the left side. He comes from the right side. Lines up as a linebacker, a down lineman. It doesn't really matter. He does it as good or better than anyone around and has been doing it for a long time. One of the reasons the 49er defense is always in single digits and have been for the past decade in terms of overall defense.
Got away with hitting Willis on the head there. Sometimes you'll see that draw a flag, although that was looked to me to be unintentional. Just rushing with his arms up in the air trying to block the pass.
His head just happened to be there.
Yeah.
Griffin makes the fair catch of the Buford kick, and we have 4:53 remaining. Mike Ditka wrapping up his 10th season as the head coach of the Bears. The total of 45, the most points scored against a Ditka-coached team. You know, the funny thing is, George Halas coached the Bears for 40 years. They came in 4 10-year increments. When Mike Ditka coaches this team next year, there's no reason to believe he won't, he will set the record for most consecutive years as the head coach of the Bears, which is amazing when you think of it.
He had an amazing run in those 10 years, and, you know, somebody dug it up. I'm sure it was somebody. Steve Hurd dug it up. He's used 10 different starting quarterbacks over those 10 years. That's pretty remarkable to put together the record he has over those 10 years. Ho, ho, ho.
And a happy new year.
Is that the FAA approved up there?
That's a weird looking play, isn't it? How can he be in 2 places at once? You don't mean...
Yes.
No.
Sorry, Dan.
No.
Oh, Dan.
Oh, Frank, you're not telling me that.
And Frank, the night before Christmas Eve, how can you do that to him?
Yeah. I know, we've got several chimneys. I wonder which one he's going to find.
Tillman takes it across the 50 to the 49, under 4 minutes to play. Well, we almost pulled it off.
Ooh, Craig Janoff, a near miss.
Looks like a slave, though, doesn't it? Just a little bit.
Yeah, perfect. Tomorrow's the night.
Take this chance to say Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays to everyone who's still with us. Have a safe holiday season and a very, very good New Year.
Musgrave on 3rd and 3. Throws complete for a first down. Catch is made by Mike Sherrard. First down, Niners at the 37-yard line. And a flag comes into the action, precipitated, I believe, by Chris Dorrich, who gets into it with Harris Barton.
Dorrich was the Bears' second-round draft choice this year, the much-publicized one from Notre Dame.
Just want to hear Red Cashin give us one more first down.
Unnecessary roughness. Number 79 of the offense. After the ball was dead, we'll set the stakes. It'll be 1st and 25.
Grab your partner. That's what Barton and Zorich were doing, grabbing your partner and do-si-doing. Pretty doggone good football player there, too, in Harris Barton.
They moved him around a little bit, haven't they, over the past couple of years?
That's like getting your shoulder boards ripped off there, isn't it? Harris Barton.
Talk about inside the numbers.
Let's not.
Excuse me, we don't own that one, right?
This is a real statement by the 49ers here tonight. I mean, this is everything I like about the National Football League and the way a lot of people in this league play the game. Frank, I know you agree with me. This is something I like about it, that even though they're out of it, they're still able to play with this kind of pride. It's to the NFL's credit that we see this kind of performance tonight by the 49ers rather than just going toes up and rolling over.
Well, that's so true, individually and collectively. I mean, they came out here to win this thing, to make a statement. They have performed, in some cases, brilliantly individually. If this is the final game, they're going nowhere. They're going home. And they've come out here and really walked all over a Bear team that's heading for the playoffs this weekend.
First and 25, Spencer Tillman, and we have another flag. And a holding call.
We have a real Notre Dame connection here on the Bear defense now. Mike Stonebreaker, Zorich's teammate, is in the game as well, playing linebackers.
Holding during the run. Number 67 of the offense. That penalty is declined. It's second down.
Both coaches now begin to substitute at will. Great linebacker, great career there for Lou Holtz.
Lou re-upping at Notre Dame, so there was a lot of speculation he was going to go to the Vikings, and he ended that.
Notre Dame defense will have their hands full on New Year's night with Florida.
Second and 25 at the 48-yard line as Musgrave retreats and dumps this one off for Henry Sidney. And Zorich makes the tackle at the 45-yard line. With under 3 minutes to go, San Francisco on top. They march down the field on the opening kickoff. If there was one turning point early on, it's the Bears answering with a long drive, and Tom Waddle fumbling inside the San Francisco 5, and then the Niners going the length of the field to lead 14-0, and for all practical purposes, that was the end of that.
Dan touched on something, too. The Bears with a short week. They're going to have to get ready for a team they haven't played all year long, a team they probably haven't looked at seriously. I'm sure they did make some preliminary preparation for it, but it's going to be a very short time to prepare for that Dallas team, particularly offensively. They are much like the 49ers, a lot of speed, a lot of quickness.
Stonebreaker whacks Tillman after the incomplete pass. And instead of 3rd and 17 becoming a 4th and 17, there's going to be a personal foul against Chicago.
When the ball is obviously not caught, you just can't take a free shot at somebody like that. And Stonebreaker will put his hat. Actually, it's more with the right forearm and shoulder, but
yeah, that could almost get you out of a football game. Most definitely deliberate.
Unnecessary roughness. Number 58 of the defense, 15 yards. Unsportsmanlike conduct. Number 72 of the defense. Both fouls will be enforced. First down.
Fred's got one also.
Well, I can only assume that the Bears right now are not quite understanding why the 49ers are throwing the football so much. 45-14 is the score, and the 49ers are being pretty aggressive in coming after the Bears in what looks like an obvious attempt to score 50-plus points on the Bears.
This is just about as much emotion as we've seen from the Bears all night. It's just a little late is all.
Yeah, the Bears are inciting the crowd now.
Yeah, we ought to keep a camera on the old fridge here, Craig, and
well, he's going to empty some trays, isn't
he?
Well, he's hot.
Yeah. Well, William, we're going to watch you on this one.
And he's got the crush button on.
A man who's let his weight get out of control, and Mike Ditka has let it be known that next year William Perry is going to play at a prescribed weight, or he's not going to play for the Chicago Bears. Mike has been in an understanding mood this year, but next year the Fridge is going to have to show some discipline or he's not going to play.
They're going to walk a little more off here.
They finally mark it at the 15, 1st and 10 with 2:11 to play. Most points ever scored against the Bears, 53 by the then Chicago Cardinals in 1955.
I won't bring up 47 to nothing.
And Musgrave's going to throw, and they're going to go for 7 more, and they're going to get 6 of them on a pass to Sherrard.
Oh, I don't know about this.
Ooh.
Well, that is really rubbing it in. I mean, this is a genuine in-your-face there.
Well, the argument could be that you're letting the rookie see what he can do, but this really is salt in the wound.
The only thing I know is if the Bears and the 49ers play next year, I hope it's on Monday night. I'd like to be there for the rematch.
And in Chicago.
Ringside, I'd like to be there.
Well, in just a second, we'll be able to tell you if they do. Yes. Well, I tell you what. No, they do not play. They play Detroit next year. If Chicago had won this game, they would have played against the 49ers next year.
Well, we can't speculate as to whether or not it'll happen in the playoffs, but nobody's memory is so short that they won't remember this if they're wearing the orange and the blue of the Chicago Bears. And right now, I doubt anybody on the 49ers squad gives a hoot.
52-14, the Niners are going to end the season 10-6. Despite not going into the playoffs, the 49ers are going to win 10 games in a season for their 8th consecutive season, and that is an NFL record. No team has ever done that. But they will fall 1 year shy of going to a record 9 consecutive postseason games, set by Dallas from 75 through 83.
It was Billy Wilson, the great wide receiver for the 49ers with his arm around Musgrave.
52-14. 49ers on top. And the 49ers have scored 28 points in this quarter alone.
I think it'll be a very grim and determined Bear team that goes back to their Lake Forest training site and buckles up for a week of practice. I think Dallas is going to encounter a very angry football team.
Kick is taken by Darren Lewis.
You know what you're saying, Dan? I think probably Jimmy Johnson is thinking right now down in Dallas. We talked about what a great job that Font has done. Richie Kotite has done with Philadelphia. What a job they've done down in Dallas, turning that franchise around. And he will meet an angry Bear team.
2-minute warning with 1:56 left, and the 49ers have equaled their greatest offensive output since joining the NFL in 1950. Goodyear Blimp Columbia providing the scenics of Candlestick Park emptying out. The crowd, of course, is quite happy. The 52 points allowed tonight, the most allowed by the Bears since 1965, and the 49ers did that. And I mentioned the 49ers scoring the most points tonight, equaling their all-time output of 52, which they accomplished against Chicago clearly in 65. Before that, they had been in the All-America Conference.
It's not over either if Peter Tom puts it up.
The fourth at Bay Meadows about to begin. It'll be a 6-furlong sprint.
I thought that was my police escort to the airport.
1st and 10 from the 22-yard line. Here's Green. And he is rolled down by Todd Bowles up at the 25-yard line.
Well, there goes Billy Edwards. You can tell the two-minute warning has come and gone. Big Bill heading for Annapolis. Back to Billy's Bar. You've been caught, Billy. That's right.
Yep. Believe me, there'll be a little Yuletide spirit at Billy's Bar over the holidays.
Bye. Bye. Billy Edwards, 80 years young, working on our sidelines as always.
Well, it's just the good life he's lived.
Well, he's talking about
talking
about retiring, and I don't think we should let him.
Billy is pretty confident this one's not going into overtime.
I hope I'm taking stairs 2 at a time when I'm 80.
I hope I'm taking them 1 at a time.
Billy has an escort leaving the stadium.
If it's a running play, it's the final play of the game, but it's not. And P.T. Willis throws a duck that is incomplete. Johnny Jackson is the nearest to it. 52-14, the 49ers. Steve Bono.
There's a cast on that left leg from the injury of a week ago.
Well, we get ready for the Jerry and Jimmy show. Jim Moore of the Saints and Jerry Glanville of the Falcons.
Could two people be more unalike?
Both teams would like to wear black. Something tells me the Saints will opt for their black jerseys and make the Saints wear their road colors. Or, make the Falcons wear theirs, rather.
Tough getting a seat in the dome for this one. Maybe Jerry will leave us a few tickets. What do you think?
Only if you're willing to sign in as Elvis.
Whatever it takes. The regular season is about over. As Peter Tom Willis scrambles to his left. And is tackled at the 48-yard line.
Oh, Peter, don't start this. No. Just head for your locker room. Head for your locker room.
First of all, Peter, there's no one out there you can whip.
No, you're on the wrong side of the field, pal.
End of the game, end of the regular season. We will visit with you next on Saturday. Wild card doubleheader. Raiders in Kansas City. Atlanta and New Orleans coming your way on ABC. Bears go home, lick tonight's wounds, and get ready to face Dallas. Montana goes home to rehab. We'll see him in training camp next August. And the 49ers win it by a score of 52-14 as Seifert's third year ends with a 6-game winning streak. And Steve Young comes back from his injury and looks brilliant.
Gentlemen, thank you very, very much. Another good year comes to an end, and into the playoffs we go.
You bet.
Thanks, guys.
Terrific season. 52-14, our final score, as the 49ers beat the Chicago Bears. Wayne Punt and his Lions a week off, and they'll be home in the second round of the playoffs. Al Michaels, Frank Gifford, Dan Dieter, good night from Candlestick Park in San Francisco.